Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if there's something more you could be doing to protect your health as you age? That nagging fear that with every birthday candle you blow out, your odds of hearing those dreaded words, "you have cancer," tick up just a little bit more. I know that feeling all too well. I've sat with countless patients in their 60s, 70s and beyond who came to me after receiving that devastating diagnosis, their eyes filled with the same question. Could I have done something to prevent this? What if I told you that there are 3 powerful foods that most doctors aren't talking about? Foods that could actually help cleanse your body of cancer-causing toxins and dramatically reduce your cancer risk after 60. Today, I'm going to share the exact same nutritional secrets that have helped hundreds of my senior patients strengthen their bodies against cancer. And the best part? You probably already have at least one of these miracle foods sitting in your kitchen right now. So stay with me until the end, because this information could literally be the difference between living your golden years in fear or embracing them with strength and vitality. Hey there, it's great to have you with me today on this important topic. Before we dive deeper, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have any questions about cancer prevention as you age, feel free to ask. I try to respond to as many comments as possible. If you're new here and want more science-backed information on staying healthy after 60, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our weekly videos on aging well and cancer prevention. You know, when I first started researching the connection between nutrition and cancer prevention in older adults, I was absolutely blown away by how little of this life-saving information was making its way to the people who needed it most. The science is there. It's been there for years, but somehow it stays locked away in medical journals, instead of reaching folks like you who could actually use it to protect their health. That's why I created this channel, to bridge that gap and put this powerful knowledge directly into your hands. No medical jargon, no confusing terminology, just straightforward, actionable information you can use starting today. I want to pause for a moment here and ask you something important. What's your biggest fear when it comes to your health after 60? Is it cancer, heart disease, losing your independence? You know, so many of us carry these worries silently, thinking we're the only ones lying awake at night concerned about what might be happening inside our bodies. But I want you to know that you're not alone in those fears. I've worked with thousands of older adults, and that sense of vulnerability is something almost everyone experiences. It's part of the human condition as we age. If you feel comfortable sharing, I'd love for you to type in the comments, "My biggest health concern is," and tell us what keeps you up at night. Your experience matters, and your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today to feel less alone. Plus, your comments help me create content that addresses your specific concerns. We're building more than just a YouTube channel here. We're creating a community of support for each other as we navigate the challenges of aging. Remember, shared wisdom makes all of us stronger. When we talk about cancer prevention after 60, we need to understand something fundamental about how our bodies change as we age. You see, by the time we reach our 6th decade, our bodies have accumulated decades of exposure to environmental toxins, processed foods, stress, and other factors that can damage our cells and DNA. Our natural detoxification systems, primarily the liver, kidneys, and lymphatic system, begin to work less efficiently. At the same time, our immune surveillance, which normally catches and eliminates cancerous cells before they can form tumors, becomes less vigilant. It's a perfect storm that helps explain why cancer risk increases dramatically with age. In fact, according to the National Cancer Institute, the median age for a cancer diagnosis in the United States is 66 years old. That means half of all cancer cases are diagnosed in people older than that. But here's the good news, and it's powerful news. This doesn't have to be your story. Numerous studies now confirm that specific dietary changes, even when started later in life, can significantly reduce cancer risk. And that brings us to our 3 cancer-fighting powerhouse foods. The first cancer-fighting superfood that should be on every senior's plate is cruciferous vegetables, particularly broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cauliflower. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. I've heard vegetables are good for me my whole life. What's so special about these particular ones? Well, the answer lies in a remarkable compound called sulforaphane. When you chop, chew, or blend cruciferous vegetables, they release this compound that has been shown in hundreds of scientific studies to have direct anti-cancer properties. Let me explain exactly how this works in your body after 60. As we age, our cells accumulate damage from free radicals, those unstable molecules that essentially rust us from the inside out. Sulforaphane activates something called the NRF2 pathway. Think of it as flipping on the master switch for your body's internal antioxidant production. This is critical because while taking antioxidant supplements might help somewhat, nothing is as powerful as getting your own cells to ramp up their protective mechanisms. A 2018 study published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology followed over 1,500 people above the age of 65 and found that those who consumed cruciferous vegetables at least 5 times per week had a 33% lower risk of developing cancer over an 8-year period compared to those who ate them less than once per week. That's more effective than many medications. But sulforaphane doesn't just prevent cancer. It appears to specifically target cancer cells that may already be developing in your body. Laboratory studies have shown that this compound can actually cause apoptosis, or programmed cell death, in cancer cells while leaving healthy cells untouched. It's like having a smart bomb that only targets the bad guys. This is particularly important after 60, when small clusters of cancer cells may already be present, but haven't yet grown large enough to be detected by screening. Does this mean that eating broccoli will cure existing cancer? No, and I want to be very clear about that. But for cancer prevention and supporting conventional treatments, the evidence is compelling. So how much of these vegetables should you be eating? Research suggests that just 3 to 5 servings per week, with a serving being about 1 cup, can provide significant benefits. And here's a pro tip that most people don't know. To maximize the sulforaphane content, chop your cruciferous vegetables about 45 minutes before cooking them, and then lightly steam rather than boiling them. This simple preparation method can increase the bioavailable cancer-fighting compounds by up to 5 times. I remember working with Harold, a 72-year-old retired engineer, who came to me after his identical twin brother had been diagnosed with colon cancer. Genetically, Harold knew he was at high risk and he was determined to do everything possible to avoid his brother's fate. We immediately implemented a nutrition plan centered around cruciferous vegetables. He committed to having at least 1 serving every single day. We're talking broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage and kale in rotation. 3 years later, during a routine colonoscopy, Harold's gastroenterologist found and removed 3 precancerous polyps. While this might sound concerning, his doctor was actually amazed. He told Harold that given his family history and age, he had expected to find many more advanced polyps. Harold has remained cancer-free for over a decade now, while sadly, his brother, who didn't make these dietary changes, experienced a recurrence of his cancer. Now, this is just one case, and I'm not suggesting that broccoli alone was responsible for this outcome, but it aligns perfectly with what the research shows about these powerful vegetables. Are there any concerns or contraindications with cruciferous vegetables? For most people, they're incredibly safe. However, if you're on blood-thinning medications like warfarin, you should maintain consistent intake rather than suddenly increasing or decreasing your consumption, as these vegetables contain vitamin K, which can interact with these medications. Also, some people with thyroid issues are advised to moderate their intake of raw cruciferous vegetables, but cooking largely eliminates this concern. And if you experience digestive discomfort when eating these foods, try starting with smaller amounts and gradually increasing, or cook them thoroughly to break down some of the harder-to-digest fibers. The benefits far outweigh these manageable considerations. The second powerful cancer-fighting food that becomes even more important after 60 is berries, particularly blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, and raspberries. These colorful fruits are absolutely loaded with compounds called anthocyanins, which give them their vibrant colors and are responsible for many of their health benefits. What makes these compounds so special for older adults is their dual action. They function both as potent antioxidants and as regulators of gene expression that can actually turn off cancer-promoting genes and turn on cancer-suppressing ones. This becomes critically important as we age because our DNA repair mechanisms naturally become less efficient over time, leaving us more vulnerable to the kind of genetic damage that can lead to cancer. A landmark study published in Cancer Prevention Research demonstrated that berry extracts could inhibit the growth of several types of cancer cells, including those of the colon, prostate, and breast, 3 of the most common cancers in people over 60. Even more impressively, A long-term study that followed over 75,000 older adults for more than a decade found that those who consumed berries at least twice per week had a 24% reduced risk of developing several forms of cancer, compared to those who rarely ate berries. This protection was especially pronounced for digestive system cancers. But why exactly do berries have this effect? It comes down to their unique ability to combat something called angiogenesis, the process by which tumors create their own blood supply. Without this blood supply, tumors simply can't grow beyond the size of a pinhead. The compounds in berries have been shown to inhibit this process, essentially starving potential tumors before they can become dangerous. There's also fascinating research on how berries affect inflammation in the body, which is a key factor in cancer development, especially as we age. You see, chronic inflammation creates an environment where cancer cells can thrive. By your 60s and beyond, most people have developed some degree of chronic, low-grade inflammation. It's almost like a slow-burning fire in your tissues. The anthocyanins and ellagic acid in berries help douse this inflammatory fire. A study from the Jean Meyer USDA Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging at Tufts University found that older adults who consumed 1 cup of berries daily for just 8 weeks showed significant reductions in inflammatory markers in their bloodstream. How much should you eat? Research suggests that just a half cup to 1 cup of mixed berries daily provides significant anti-cancer benefits. And here's something many people don't realize: frozen. Berries are just as nutritious as fresh, sometimes even more so because they're frozen at peak ripeness. This makes them an affordable year-round option. I always recommend keeping a variety of frozen berries on hand to add to smoothies, oatmeal, or yogurt. Speaking of yogurt, combining berries with probiotic-rich foods creates a synergistic effect, as the beneficial bacteria help release even more of the cancer-fighting compounds from the berries during digestion. One of my patients, Eleanor, was a 68-year-old retired teacher with a strong family history of breast cancer. When we first met, she was convinced that cancer was inevitable for her. Both her mother and older sister had been diagnosed in their 60s. We implemented a comprehensive nutrition plan that included a daily berry smoothie, 1 cup of mixed berries with some yogurt, and a tablespoon of ground flaxseed. Eleanor was diligent about this simple daily ritual. At her most recent checkup, her oncologist noted that her inflammatory markers, which they had been monitoring due to her high risk, had decreased significantly. Of course, I can't claim that berries alone were responsible, but the research strongly supports that the compounds in these fruits have real, measurable effects on the biological pathways involved in cancer development. Are there any downsides to consuming berries? Very few. If you're on blood thinners, the natural salicylates in berries might slightly enhance the medication's effects, but this is rarely clinically significant. If you have diabetes, you'll be happy to know that berries are among the fruits with the lowest impact on blood sugar, especially when compared to tropical fruits. In fact, the fiber in berries actually helps moderate blood sugar spikes. Just be mindful if you're purchasing frozen berries to avoid any with added sugar, and if you're buying berry juices, make sure they're 100% juice without added sweeteners, as the sugar content can otherwise be quite high. Now let's talk about our third cancer-fighting superfood, and this one might surprise you, because it's often been misunderstood in the past. I'm talking about fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout. For decades, we were told to avoid fats, but research has now clearly established that the omega-3 fatty acids found in these fish are absolutely crucial for cancer prevention, especially as we age. By the time we reach our 60s, most Americans have developed a significant imbalance between omega-6 fatty acids, which are pro-inflammatory and found in most processed foods, and omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. This imbalance creates the perfect storm for cancer development. The two most important omega-3s for cancer prevention are EPA and DHA, and fatty fish are the only significant dietary source of both. These compounds work in multiple ways to reduce cancer risk. First, they help resolve inflammation, not by suppressing it like medications do, but by actively helping your body complete the inflammatory process and return to a balanced state. This is crucial because chronic, unresolved inflammation is a key driver of cancer, especially in older adults. Second, omega-3s get incorporated into cell membranes throughout your body, making them more fluid and better functioning. This improved cell membrane function helps cells resist malignant transformation. Perhaps most impressively, a meta-analysis published in the Journal of the American Medical Association looked at 40 studies involving over 3 million participants and found that people with the highest blood levels of omega-3s had a 14% reduced risk of dying from cancer compared to those with the lowest levels. For certain cancers, particularly colorectal cancer, the risk reduction was even greater, up to 39% in some studies. This is particularly relevant for those over 60, as colorectal cancer risk increases significantly with age. How does this work in the body? It appears that omega-3s help regulate cell growth and promote appropriate cell death when cells become damaged, two processes that go awry in cancer development. They also enhance the function of our immune system's natural killer cells, which are responsible for identifying and eliminating potential cancer cells. This immune surveillance becomes less efficient as we age, making omega-3s particularly valuable for older adults. Additionally, omega-3s have been shown to reduce the production of prostaglandin E2, a compound that promotes cancer growth and is often found in higher levels in older adults. The recommended intake is at least 2 4-ounce servings of fatty fish per week. If you don't enjoy fish or have concerns about contaminants, high-quality fish oil supplements can be a reasonable alternative, though whole food sources are generally preferable. For those who follow plant-based diets, algae-derived DHA supplements provide a direct source of this important omega-3, while flax seeds and walnuts contain ALA, another type of omega-3. The conversion to EPA and DHA in the body becomes less efficient as we age, making fish or algae sources more reliable for those over 60. I worked with Robert, a 74-year-old retired banker who had recently been diagnosed with early-stage prostate cancer. His oncologist had recommended active surveillance rather than immediate treatment, essentially monitoring the cancer closely since it was slow-growing. Robert wanted to do everything possible to prevent progression. We implemented a nutrition plan that included fatty fish 3 times per week, along with other dietary changes. At his 6-month follow-up, his PSA levels, a marker of prostate cancer activity, had decreased slightly, and his inflammatory markers had improved significantly. His oncologist was surprised by this positive shift, as the expectation with active surveillance is typically stability or slow progression, not improvement. Again, I can't attribute this solely to the addition of fatty fish, but the scientific literature strongly supports the anti-cancer effects of omega-3s, particularly for hormone-sensitive cancers like prostate cancer. Are there any concerns with increasing fatty fish consumption? If you're on blood thinners, consult your doctor before significantly increasing your omega-3 intake or starting supplements, as they do have mild anticoagulant effects. Some people worry about mercury in fish, which is a valid concern. Focus on smaller fish, lower on the food chain like sardines, herring, and wild salmon, which accumulate less mercury. If you're taking fish oil supplements, quality matters tremendously. Look for brands that molecularly distill their products to remove contaminants and test for rancidity, as oxidized omega-3s can actually increase inflammation rather than reduce it. Now, what makes these 3 foods, cruciferous vegetables, berries, and fatty fish, particularly powerful is their synergistic effect when consumed, together as part of a regular diet. Each works through different but complementary mechanisms to create an internal environment that's hostile to cancer development. The sulforaphane in cruciferous vegetables enhances your body's detoxification systems and DNA repair capabilities. The anthocyanins and other compounds in berries fight oxidative damage and inflammation while inhibiting tumor blood vessel formation. And the omega-3s in fatty fish regulate cellular growth and death while supporting proper immune function. Together they create a powerful trifecta of cancer protection. But I want to emphasize something important here. These foods aren't magic bullets, and they work best as part of an overall anti-cancer lifestyle. Regular physical activity, stress management, adequate sleep, and limiting alcohol consumption are all critical components of cancer prevention after 60. However, what you eat remains one of the most powerful variables under your direct control. The beauty of focusing on adding these 3 foods to your diet, rather than just focusing on what to eliminate, is that it creates a positive, sustainable approach to eating. And sustainability is key. These foods only work if you consume them regularly over time. I also want to address something I hear frequently from my older patients. Isn't it too late for me to make these changes? Haven't I already done too much damage? The research gives us a resounding answer. No, it's absolutely not too late. Your body has remarkable regenerative capabilities at any age. Studies show that positive dietary changes can begin to reduce cancer risk within weeks to months, even for people in their 70s and 80s. Every meal is an opportunity to nudge your internal environment toward cancer prevention rather than cancer promotion. And because cancer typically develops over decades, with many opportunities for intervention along the way, these dietary changes can help stop the process at various stages, whether it's preventing the initial DNA damage, helping repair damage that's already occurred, or preventing an existing small cluster of cancerous cells from progressing to a detectable tumor. Let's talk about practical ways to incorporate these 3 cancer-fighting foods into your daily routine. For cruciferous vegetables, try roasting a large batch of mixed broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts with a little olive oil and garlic at the beginning of the week, then keep them in the refrigerator. To add to meals throughout the week, remember to chop them and let them sit for about 45 minutes before cooking to maximize the sulforaphane content. For berries, keep both fresh and frozen on hand and aim for at least a half cup daily. Add them to breakfast, enjoy as a snack with some nuts or blend into a smoothie. For fatty fish, canned sardines and salmon are convenient, affordable options if fresh fish isn't practical. Try to have at least 2 servings weekly and consider supplementing with a high-quality fish oil if you can't consistently meet this target through food alone. The timing of when you consume these foods may also matter. Emerging research in the field of chrononutrition suggests that our bodies process different nutrients more efficiently at different times of day. For instance, consuming your cruciferous vegetables with lunch or dinner rather than breakfast may maximize their cancer-fighting benefits, as detoxification processes tend to be more active later in the day. Similarly, the anti-inflammatory effects of omega-3s may be enhanced when consumed with dinner, as inflammation typically increases in the evening for most people. These timing strategies are still being researched, but they represent an exciting frontier in nutritional science for cancer prevention. I want to share a simple weekly meal plan that incorporates all 3 of these cancer-fighting foods in delicious ways. For breakfast, try a berry smoothie with ground flaxseed and a handful of spinach, which is actually a cruciferous vegetable, though milder than its relatives. For lunch, a large salad with arugula, another cruciferous vegetable, topped with canned wild salmon and a handful of berries. For dinner, roasted Brussels sprouts and cauliflower alongside a piece of mackerel or trout. Snack on a small handful of berries with some walnuts, which provide plant-based omega-3s. This pattern ensures you're getting all 3 of our cancer-fighting superfoods daily, in combinations that taste great together. What about supplements? While whole foods should always be the foundation, there are certain supplements that may be worth considering, especially after 60 when nutrient absorption often decreases. Vitamin D is particularly important for cancer prevention. Studies show that adequate vitamin D levels are associated with lower risk of several cancers, including colorectal, breast, and prostate cancers. Since our ability to synthesize vitamin D from sunlight decreases significantly with age, and few foods provide meaningful amounts, supplementation is often necessary for optimal levels. A high-quality probiotic may also support your cancer prevention efforts by maintaining a healthy gut microbiome, which plays a crucial role in immune function and inflammation regulation. Always consult with your healthcare provider before starting any supplements, especially if you're on medications, as interactions are possible. Now, I want to be completely transparent about the limitations of dietary approaches to cancer prevention. While the evidence supporting these 3 foods is strong, cancer is a complex disease influenced by many factors, including genetics, environmental exposures, and yes, some element of random chance. No diet can guarantee complete protection. However, research consistently shows that dietary choices can significantly shift the odds in your favor. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Causes and Control estimated that about 30–40% of all cancers could be prevented through diet and lifestyle modifications alone. That's a tremendous amount of control we have over our health destiny, even into our 60s, 70s, and beyond. I often tell my patients to think of cancer prevention like wearing a seatbelt. Wearing a seatbelt doesn't guarantee you won't be injured in a car accident, but it dramatically improves your odds of survival if one occurs. Similarly, consuming a diet rich in cruciferous vegetables, berries and fatty fish doesn't guarantee you won't develop cancer, but it significantly improves your odds of avoiding it or of surviving if you do develop it. In fact, studies on cancer survivors show that those who adopt these dietary practices after diagnosis often have better outcomes and lower recurrence rates. One of the most powerful aspects of focusing on these three specific foods is that they help address multiple hallmarks of aging that contribute to cancer risk. As we age, our cells accumulate damage from oxidative stress, our immune system becomes less vigilant, our detoxification systems become less efficient, and chronic inflammation increases. Each of our three superfoods helps combat multiple aspects of this aging process. Cruciferous vegetables enhance detoxification and DNA repair. Berries combat oxidative stress and inflammation. Fatty fish regulate immune function and reduce inflammation. Together, they provide a comprehensive approach to addressing the age-related changes that increase cancer risk. It's also worth noting that these same dietary patterns that help prevent cancer also help prevent other age-related diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and neurodegenerative conditions. You're not just protecting yourself against cancer, you're promoting overall longevity and quality of life. This is crucial because as we age, the goal isn't just to avoid any one disease, but to compress morbidity, that is, to minimize the time spent in poor health at the end of life. The dietary pattern we're discussing helps achieve exactly that. Let me share one final case that beautifully illustrates the power of these dietary changes. Margaret was 83 when she first came to see me, already well beyond the age where many people feel it's too late to make meaningful changes. She had just lost her husband to pancreatic cancer and was determined to stay healthy enough to maintain her independence and enjoy her grandchildren. Despite her advanced age, Margaret embraced all the recommendations we've discussed today with remarkable consistency. 5 years later, at 88, her routine blood work showed improvements across virtually every marker of inflammation and immune function compared to when she started. Her cognitive function remained sharp, and she had the energy to travel internationally with her grandchildren, something she had feared would be impossible in her 80s. While I can't promise these same results for everyone, Margaret's case powerfully illustrates that it's never too late to benefit from these dietary changes. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a simple, actionable plan. Start by adding just one serving of each of our three cancer-fighting foods to your diet this week. 1 serving of broccoli or Brussels sprouts, 1 serving of berries, and 1 serving of fatty fish. Once that becomes comfortable, gradually increase to the recommended amounts we discussed. Small, consistent changes are far more powerful than dramatic overhauls that prove unsustainable. Remember that each meal is an opportunity to nudge your body toward cancer prevention rather than cancer promotion. Thank you so much for staying with me through this important information. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and share this video with someone you care about who's over 60. You might literally be saving their life. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more evidence-based content on healthy aging and cancer prevention. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or any questions you have. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as I can. Remember, it's never too late to make changes that can dramatically reduce your cancer risk. The power is on your plate. Here's to your health and longevity. I'll see you in our next video.